Hey mums, if your child's worries or meltdowns are leaving you feeling frazzled, this Heart to Heart with counsellor and parent coach Sarah Florenze is for you. Drawing on her own journey of overcoming anxiety and her work with families, Sarah shares practical tools to help you calm anxious kids, build their confidence, and boost your own resilience. What we'd like to cover today is what is a growth mindset, what that looks like in real life, how to help children through anxiety and social worries, the difference between counselling and parent coaching, an exercise to calm both you and your child, which I think many will find quite helpful, and where to find further support with links and helplines. So, Sarah, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's very nice to be here. Thank you.
Great to have you here, and I thank you for your time today. Before we dive into the topics, and just to sort of break the ice, what did last week look like for you, and what's bringing you joy right now?
It's interesting. I think each week is it's very, very busy. In clinic here in Kiama, I have really been taking off with my business in session, obviously in clinic all week. But being a mama bear, I'm a mama bear to my daughter who is 9 years old and also my son, he is 6. So as we know, parenting is very, very demanding. And of course, running my own business too. So it has been a busy week. You sort of get to Monday and it's already Friday. But I also have many, many goals of my own at the moment. So I'm heavily involved in training and fitness as well. So that is also predominantly a big part of my week. But also I think too, it's just around isolating myself within my work, within my family, and just really enjoying the time that I do have as well.
Absolutely. And I'm sure many mothers completely relate to this whole juggling of things. And your Monday starts, you blink and you go, it's this, weekend. Where did that week go? What have I
Yeah.
accomplished? What have I done? Where has it gone? I have an 11-year-old daughter and no other children, but she still tends to consume a lot of that time. I'm very happy she does. It's a very beautiful relationship, but it does, it just does tend to spread you a little bit thin, doesn't it?
It does. It really, really does. But it's all worthwhile. But of course, we still get very tired as well.
Oh, yes. Now, going into just to set the scene a little bit, I wanted to share a bit of your story or ask you to share a bit of your story, really. And looking at your website and some of the other resources that you've sent across, I wonder if you could give me a bit more about your background and how you ended up where you are in regards to the counselling and the genre that you're in, as in with the children, etc.
Of course. So I actually began my career as a primary school teacher. I'm still registered as a teacher and I still teach today, which is very, very lovely. But I have obviously expanded my educational systems and with a master's in counselling and psychotherapy. And that was actually contributed to night school. So as a mum and wanting to expand my educational background, but also really propelling myself into a new career. And that was after working within the educational system and working my way up into AP roles and being able to really see that there is a need for therapy, but also around helping and assisting families. And especially as a teacher, you obviously assist families there too. But I really wanted to go that one step further and continue my own studies. But it was a very big juggle. It was something that I had to manage alongside life. And I'm very, very proud of where I am today. I obviously run my own business. It's called Keep Growing Counselling. It is located down in the south coast of New South Wales in Kiama. And that is not just around obviously therapeutic approaches in therapy, but also as a parent coach. So I have worked and around studied with Dr. Shivali from the United States and looked at around conscious parenting, how we can actually do parenting even better and being able to really learn how we do that and be able to be regulated in the state that we are as parents.
Wow, that is quite profound work. I dare say many mums, not just single mums, would very much struggle with that self-regulation around their children. And we have, as you said earlier, all these things driving us and influencing us and all these pressures to attain throughout the day and this time running out so quickly for us. So, to keep our own cool in the context of a child meltdown state is I think something that many of us struggle, or potentially I'm just internalizing here. I'm sure there are mums out there that are cool as cucumbers, but yeah, I'm not one of those. It takes a lot of work there. So it'd be interesting to hear some of your guidance on that. But just looking on your website, also, I noticed that you share that you've experienced some anxiety growing up. How does that influence the work you do with the families today?
And it's so important. I love that you bring that up because I'm very transparent in my own journey with GAD, so generalized anxiety disorder. I suffered and started to suffer anxiety in and around grade 3 to grade 4. And that was obviously navigating certain challenges within my own life and my own family system at the time when I was a child. And it's vitally important in the work that I do now. And as I say, anxiety it's like the light never switches off. And it's this almost fear of the uncertainty of future. And the work that I have done, not just from an educational standpoint, but from a personal standpoint, is that my anxiety now, I believe, is quite the superpower. And in saying that, I believe that growing up with anxiety, and it has brought a real deep compassion that I can bring into my work with an intuition as well when I work with families. It's really around navigating those fears and uncertainties that families face with parenting. But I think it fuels such an empathy within myself that guiding families with a level of authenticity, but also showing them that the reassurance that I've been there. Like, I know how this feels and there is a way forward. And it's really around allowing our anxiety and learning from that, but also taking our lived experience and helping it mold my approach as a therapist to assist families in an attentive way, but also non-judgmental, but also in a grounded approach in resilience and showing them that there is hope out there as well.
That's beautiful. Very much, when people think therapy, they think the therapist is almost a being that has no issues whatsoever, that is this always been well put together with no mental health ups or downs in the past or current. They are these almighty beings that can guide us down the path of enlightenment or, reassure us when we're struggling. But I think it has so much value to realize and to know that counselors, therapists, people that support are people too. And they have struggled, and to be so transparent, it gives you more depth and, like you've mentioned, understanding rather than diminish your worth in any way whatsoever. I think, someone that's never been through something would find it difficult to guide you through that something.
I think that that's so true. And that's why I really approach therapy differently in my own clinic, because I have been the client in therapy for a big predominant part of my life because of what I have had to deal with as a young child in my own family system. And I pride myself on the fact that I understand what it feels like to require coaching or counselling. And it's okay to feel uncertain about those situations. And to really, I pride myself once again on the humanness that I can bring to therapy and the understanding that comes with that. And we are all human and we all suffer at times. And it's how we actually can reach out for help, which is a strength. Being able to reach out for help, it is such a strength. And to find the right person to work alongside you as well.
Absolutely. It's that making it through the trenches, coming out the other side, and then having a little bit of wisdom to share on the other side.
Exactly right.
And thinking about these, that this wisdom that comes through experience, what are some tools, means, ways that you have learned and developed to get through those trenches that you can now share with your clients?
I think that that's a great question. And obviously, it's a very vast answer because it is different for each individual. But for me and personally, as a mother, being able to understand that we are doing the very best job that we can in the moment that is being presented, but also understanding our children. And I use the word as is. So really seeing our children as they are and being able to reflect on who is this maybe little human being in front of us, And
Mhm.
what are they presenting to us as themselves?
Mhm.
Really, for me and my journey was my daughter, particularly, has been the very biggest teacher I believe that I will ever have. And my son is someone that came along a few years later and has really provided me with a completely different experience because I myself have done a lot of work as a parent to allow myself permission that it is
Mhm.
okay. We're not aiming for perfection, we're aiming for connection.
Very valid points there. I think the first one that I'm picking up on is, with your children, we often, as parents, and again, I'm generalizing here, but when we look at our kids, we see our kids. This is someone that we've birthed and, they were completely reliant upon us. And there's this little being that is our child, but they're also a person within themselves, as in they have a character of their own. They're not just a reflection. Often we might put characteristics onto them which we think they have, but they don't really. They've got their own. So seeing them as they are really strips that back and allows you to look at that human being as a human being rather than your child, labeling them as anything else but who they actually are.
It's correct. And I think that once we start to really pare back this feeling as a mother that we have to be perfect and
Mm.
looking at perfectionism, and I am a recovering perfectionist and I will be for my entire life, but it's looking around what is perfectionism to you as a person? Is it self orientated? Is this is social orientation or is it an others orientated? So it's really about understanding where your perfectionism is coming from. And is that something that you're then outlaying onto your children? And so for me, and it may sound unusual for your audience, but parenting for me is not so much about my children, it's about myself and being able to really reflect on
Mhm.
who I am as a person and what I wish to bring into parenting. And as I said, my children are my biggest teachers. So they allow me to at times feel, and what some people may say is triggered, I tend to use the word activated. And
Yeah.
I really lean into those activations because it means that there's something within me that I need to actually look at and look further into. And then that allows me to have a conscious approach in parenting and be able to have what I always call is firm and kind. And it's
Mhm.
really around keeping consistency within parenting, keeping a firmness, but also this loving and gentle kindness that always marries up with what you're trying to approach in parenting, and it becomes a beautiful journey.
I love it. I love what you've just said. It's about you. Mothering or parenting is about you. And yes, it is about your children. We devote ourselves to our children, but unless we work on ourselves and unless we know ourselves and unless we are aware of what goes on in our heads, how can we parent effectively? So I completely agree with that modality of being. That's just absolutely, it resonates with me. I'm not sure. I think it would resonate with quite a lot of our audience. And I think, that perfection that you touch on, it's a form of mindset and it's a behavioral pattern that we can change that I think for many of us being so fixated on leads to that feeling of being overwhelmed and like we're, guilty, riddled by guilt. We're just not measuring up. It's shifting that would help in feeling of overwhelm. What else do you think might help with that feeling of overwhelm?
Well, I think too that leads into also the question of what is and what I like to look at as growth mindset in parenting. And
Mhm,
growth mindset is it's really embracing the idea of our abilities.
mhm,
So the abilities of leaning into that edge of where we're comfortable being uncomfortable because our children at times make us uncomfortable. They
mhm,
trigger and activate us. And then that also has a reaction in us. So for me, particularly as a parent and also as a parent coach, but also as a therapist, I'm looking at how we switch our reaction into response and
mhm,
how we actually go from coping to learning. So this is around how we develop time and effort within our parenting skills and our toolkit as such. And for every mum and their children out there today, the minds shift that we need to say our mindset is becoming from overwhelm into an opportunity. So each experience we're having with our children that
Mhm.
we're finding difficult, it's an opportunity for us to connect with a part of them that we may not be understanding. So it allows us that mistakes are all they're learning opportunities for us. And for me, it was really changing my mindset from this has to be perfect to this is an opportunity to love and to learn from these little people in front of me. And I
Mhm.
think that rather insisting that I must get this perfect, I must have the perfect lunchbox that goes off to school, it's really about saying, maybe I don't know how to do this quite yet. And that's okay. I'm going to give it a try. And it's better to know that you've given this a try than to really be pushing that constant feeling and pressure of it must be perfect. I'm not saying it's easy because obviously hard work in therapy and mindset work is it is quite messy. It's not an easy task, but it definitely is worthwhile. And all I can say is that once you make this mindset shift from perfectionism to growth or growth mindset, it allows for a confidence in yourself and a level of calmness as a parent too.
I think it also is a wonderful educational example to your children when,
Mm.
they see that you stuff up too, you make mistakes too. And, it allows them to potentially not develop that perfectionist mindset in the first place.
And we have to remember that perfectionism is a protection mechanism. So,
Mhm.
if we're thinking about it from a therapy or a psychological standpoint, perfectionism is based off hyper independence, particularly, or also around the fear of failure or criticism. Also, perfectionism is also a level of control. And when
Mm.
we're thinking about a level of control, it really leans into keeping us safe.
Mhm.
For mums, there is obviously at times, and I know I've felt unsafe in parenting, like I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm.
Then leads me or led me down the path of trying to be perfect, trying to allow myself this level of I can meet this because society, and it was very much perfectionism was society orientated for myself and others orientated. So understanding where that comes from is very important. And then really around me trying to control the outcome because I needed it to feel safe.
Mhm.
So once you start recognizing where is your perfectionism coming from, is it from yourself, others, or society, then being able to work on that, whether that be with a therapist or whether that be with a trusted individual that you have in your life. And then being able to really have repetitive patterns to teach yourself that it is okay, that it does not need to be perfect. It just needs to have an attempt behind it.
Would you apply the same would you apply the same thought process to your child? So if a child is if you pick up in your child these perfectionist tendencies, you know, they may be feeling unsafe in some aspects or are trying to control the situation or are they more mirroring what you are doing?
That's a great question. And again, multifaceted in its answer that perfectionism is, as we know it from a psychological standpoint, it is always linked to fear, failure, criticism, control, and safety.
Mm.
So when we're looking at a child, particularly that is very much perfectionistic in their approach to life, I would always be looking at the parents too.
Mhm.
Because we have to remember that a child is part of a family system.
Mhm.
Now, in a family system, every individual plays roles. Whether we like it or not, we have a role in that family system. And that really is something that our children are mirroring or fusing to particular behaviors that they are witnessing. But
Mhm.
it's also thinking about for you as a parent, what is it for your child and how is that environment set that they feel the need to do that?
Mm.
So, children's behavior or adult human behavior is an example of, and especially for children, if you're seeing behaviors that you can't quite understand, it is a need within them that they are expressing through behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So when we see behavior as a parent coach or a therapist, we're trying to understand what is underneath the behavior. What is the need that they are trying to communicate and may not always have the words to do so?
I can see how that you mentioned the word triggering before. It can be quite triggering to some parents with reflecting. If you're noticing these behaviors in your child straight away, you might think, I am a bad mother. I am doing things wrong. It is because of me. Whereas inadvertently, it's not something that you potentially can even control. It's not like you're failing at being a mum. You, as a person, have developed different tendencies and different ways of being and different behaviors that are now subconsciously rubbing off on the child. And it doesn't mean that you are in no way a bad mum. It's just that there are some things that you might need to work through that you may not even know that are rubbing off on the child. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Absolutely right. And there is situations where, for me as a parent, we do have to take a standpoint and look at how we present to our children. And as we said before, there is such a beauty in our children seeing us not get it right and being able to sit with our child. And what I would really like your audience to remember is there are going to be moments in parenting and life that are incredibly messy and incredibly what I call bruised moments. But it doesn't mean that in those moments that we are a bad parent or that we are a bad mom. It means that we're real. And with real and being able to be raw with our children and for our children, and obviously age and stage is important, and obviously appropriate language is very important. But when you have this level of realness and rawness to yourself, your children see you as this person that is not just their parent, but as a human. And the beauty of these moments are that you will be very surprised that when we start to almost let our children in to see us as the human that we are, there are some beautiful moments that can be created between not just yourself, but between yourself and your children as well.
We've certainly come a long way with parenting, haven't we? I don't think our parents, their generation and their parents' generation ever thought in this way. I think it was so much more, you are the provider, the authority, and you must always appear to have everything together and always everything right. So I think it's this generation of kids are going to really benefit those real changes.
There is, and there's such a beauty in authenticity, and there's a beauty in connection over correction. And
Absolutely.
that's really what I lead with in my parent coaching is we want to connect with our children. Our children want to connect with us, but we have to be able to see our children as they are and meet them where they're at, not where we wish them to be. So it is such a beautiful journey. When we look back, we have moments and we have memories. And it's something that I take as a parent that even in the messy moments when parenting is really tough and rough and the trench is deep and we really have no idea what we're doing, we need to take a moment and know that we're doing the best we can. And it's okay to pause. It's okay to take a minute as who we are to say, and even say that I don't know how to navigate this with you right now. I just need to think about this, and showing our children that it's okay that we don't always have all the answers all the time.
I told my daughter once that I don't know what I'm doing, and she was very surprised. And I was like, well, how am I supposed to know? My kid, I'd never had a child before. I've never done this before. You didn't come with the manual. I'm just flying off the seat of my pants half the time. She was just, because I had a book. I had a book on, you think she's growing into those teenage years, and I was reading a book about teenage girls, and she's like, why are you even doing that? It's like, because I've got no idea. I have no idea how to look after you when you get to that age. And she was just flabbergasted that I did not know.
And I think the best part is that when you start to, especially as our children get older and enter into those adolescent stages, it's so beautiful. And I love the work that I do with all my families. And it's so, so beautiful because kids and children, they want connection. We thrive as humans off connection, even as adults. So the more we can connect with our children, the more that we can actually create those bonds and those strong moments in time. The tough moments don't seem as hard because we have the connection there.
Absolutely. And with that, the understanding and compassion that you've, established between yourselves as well, and given them the gift
Of
of
course.
for the rest of their lives to use everywhere else.
That's right.
Now, circling back to behavioral manifestations in children and sort of managing that through the compassion and understanding and talking to them. But at what point in time, what signs tells us that our children's worries or behaviors might need a little bit more emotional support, or a professional support rather?
I think that's a really good question because it is a fine line. And I think it can, at times, for parents, seem very blurry to work out, when do I engage extra professional support? What support do I require as well? My best advice is that looking at your child's behavior, is it lasting for quite a long time? So you're thinking about the duration of the
Mhm.
behaviors, but also, is it interfering with school? Is it interfering with learning and sleep, particularly sleep, and their appetite? So really including intense emotional outbursts. So is this an emotional response that is really we're expecting, or is this intensity building? So
Mm.
the physical symptoms as well that we're looking at in children is tummy aches or tummy pains, nausea as well, so consistent nausea, restless sleep, and also expanded fatigue, so that we can't really pinpoint. I would always recommend seeing your general practitioner as well to make sure and be supported around your GP. But then, if that is something that is sort of ticked off the list, and then engaging in therapeutic support as well, that can be really helpful. So we're thinking about the intensity of the emotions, and then we're thinking about the duration of those emotions, and if they're able to be regulated at all, or if they're dysregulated as a time frame too.
Mhm. You've mentioned reaching out to the GP to obviously uh, rule out any physical ailments, illnesses, etc., because often those can contribute. And then if a mum doesn't is not quite sure who to reach out to, like whether to go to counselling or parent coaching, psychology, how do we explain the difference to them, and how would you help them find the support that fits best?
I think when we're thinking about counselling or therapy, so that is being delivered by a trained and registered professional in Australia. So ensuring that the professional that you're seeing is registered by law is very, very important, so that they have the correct training and that they also have the correct ethical guidelines that they're following within their practice. So from a counseling and therapy standpoint, that's really addressing more emotional and psychological changes, and
Mhm.
always offering based off maybe past experience, mental health conditions being presented, or really deep emotional patterns that require change or gentle change. If we're thinking more around parent coaching in contrast, we're thinking more around that pragmatic, present focused. So we're thinking around, how can we help parents build strategies for day to day handling of parenting and also real life.
Mhm.
So it really emphasizes the difference in relation to, how do we improve the dynamic of parenting and reduce stress. So if we're worried about, behaviors, if they're deep seated rooted, if there's trauma or history of mental health in the family, definitely moving down the route of counseling and therapy would be a good option. But if you're looking more of day-to-day tools to navigate everyday stress of parenting, parent coaching is obviously a great option as well.
Thank you for clarifying that. So realistically, parent coaching would be almost like having that manual,
Correct.
having that little bit of a guide in the moments that you don't know what to do, whereas the counselling is a little bit more going deep into what's actually causing what's happening on a deeper emotional and mental health level.
Exactly right.
And if a mum has just 10 minutes tonight or after
Mhm.
listening to this podcast, and she would like to do something to help her anxious child and to steady herself. Have you got any tools or little ideas for them to trial?
I think there's a few. I think a great way is really connecting with our children on a level that they can really enjoy but might find different. And I like to do little night walks with my children. So
Hmm.
taking a little torch out, and you don't have to go far. You just might go up to the corner and back. You might sit outside when it's dark. And this is something that you can do just before bed. And it's a nice way that you might take out a little hot chocolate. You might take out something with you as well to sit down and look at the stars and ask them the question, what made you feel okay today? What was something that brought you joy today? And
Hmm.
in building these rituals, these really small rituals where you have an extra 10 or 15 minutes, it's something unusual that the children don't necessarily always see coming. Like, let's go for a night walk, and taking those torches and taking, a little hot chocolate out with you and sitting down, looking at the stars and having a little conversation. It is so vitally important that obviously bedtime is so important for our children, but also setting them up for success and also taking a moment for ourselves as mums to sit with them to actually enjoy what is outside our homes. And it's something that my children have come to absolutely love. I started it with my daughter when she was around 4 years old. She's now nearly 10, as I said. And it's something that she asks for when she's maybe feeling a little unsteady. She might be
Hmm.
feeling a little unsettled. And she always asks, can we go and sit outside, Mum? Can we go and have a look at the stars? And it's just a really nice moment that you can engage with your child and have that moment to create a steadiness between you as well.
That is such a sweet practice. We do. We bundle them off to bed because, dinner, bath time, book time, bed, and it's dark outside. So let's just get you off snug and read you the book and get you off to sleep. But, and potentially when they're very little, that's quite appropriate. But as
Of
they
course.
do become aware of, take them, I think I might adopt that. That is such a beautiful practice. I'm going to actually try that. My daughter and I go out for a coffee. Well, I have the coffee, obviously. We have a mummy daughter cafe time once a week where we get to sit and we get to chat. And
Mm,
we've been doing that since she could sit up. Initially, it was time for me to just have 10 minutes and a coffee out and feel special while she sat there and just gargled to herself. And now she's used to us going and asks for if we don't go. And that's that sort of emotional connection, and it gives us a common, it's a moment in time where it's just time for us, nothing else matters, and we get to reflect on things that have been and any things that we're looking forward to, and talk about issues that are going on at school and whatever. It opens that communication. But what you've just suggested, it is another level of that grounding. You're stepping in a night. It tends to be quite settling. The dark skies, the stars, the ambience of the night is quite grounding and steadying. And to sit there with that hot cocoa, it's bringing it back inside and seeing what's going on inside for them.
that's right.
It's such a beautiful practice. I love it.
I hope it's helpful for your audience as well.
Absolutely. And I think this is too a beautiful tool for us. Even being a single mum, we have to share, not all of us, but many of us have to share that child with the other parent. And so therefore we find ourselves potentially either a few days or a whole week on our own, extending that practice to ourselves of stepping out, sitting out on the blanket or going out for a little walk, in the evenings, and just reflecting and settling ourselves. That would further support what you spoke to earlier in regards to shifting that mindset from being a perfectionist and having to have everything done right, to just and checking in with yourself and seeing where you're faltering, to bringing that awareness, in a very calm, serene space.
Definitely. And we have to remember that these moments in time, and what I always try to suggest to my parents, are they are free and they are capable of having such a powerful impact on our children, but also ourselves.
Absolutely. And that goes back to what you were saying. We need to focus on ourselves first.
Definitely, always.
So I think we're drawing close. The time's ticking away. I love it when I talk to people. I don't even notice the time going. But it just means it's been a really good conversation. But talking about these little tools, and I appreciate the one that you've just shared, are there any others that you can think of just off the top of your head in regards to shifting that mindset? And I think we've talked about shifting the mindset from perfectionism, but potentially looking at maybe letting go of guilt or steering more into that growth mindset. Are there any other tools that you can potentially share with us while I've got you here?
I think the biggest part is, and from research that we know, and obviously I have studied, is 20 minutes. 20 minutes, giving your child undivided attention, which is not directed by the parent at all. So engaging with your child for 20 minutes of play and allowing them to choose,
Yeah.
allowing them to actually direct you, and also engaging in what they choose. So that 20 minutes can also be set up with your child like, hey, I'd really like to spend 20 minutes with you coming up in the next couple of hours. Have a think about what you'd like to do. And that might mean that some children will choose to sit and snuggle under a blanket and watch Bluey. It might mean that you're playing trains in the same loop for 20 minutes. It might mean that you have your teenage daughter and you're both painting nails, but it is directed and always non-corrected by the adult. So you are engaging in play and time and presence with your child.
That sounds really very valuable. Would you recommend that every day or once a week? How often do you find these pockets of time to sit with them?
We know research is per day if we can.
Okay.
So 20 minutes per day, it has such a dramatic impact on the relationship with your child. Obviously, that isn't always manageable for people, work schedules, and also life, but really improving on making the time and finding that time, I would be saying at least 3 times a week.
Hmm.
And this will be valuable in being able to draw your relationship with your child and creating this sense of presence with your child, and that they know that that time is something that they can really enjoy because they get to choose. And that is something that is really exciting for them too.
Absolutely. And I think 3 times a week is quite manageable for even those that are caught up with work and running a household by themselves. And even putting that phone away completely as well. Because I think a lot of the times we do commit ourselves to our children, but then the phone still sits in the pocket or still sits next to us. And if something comes through, it's like, oh, I've got to go. That's more important. So it's that complete 20 minutes of surrender.
It is no distractions, and having that little blackout zone on your phone, putting that in another room and completely undivided attention for that 20 minutes with your child, with your teen. And I'm telling you now, if you're doing that once a day or 3 times a week, you're also including some of those night activities, those unusual activities that sort of separates the routine and sort of splits routine and allows for connection. Your relationship will absolutely flourish.
Beautiful, beautiful. I can't wait to implement some of these things myself.
That's so good.
And we talked about these wonderful tools, and we've talked about the difference of support that mums can get their hands on counselling versus parent coaching. Can you, in this last little bit that I've got you for, can you suggest anywhere that mums can find credible support, whether it's website, books, helplines on both mental health and parent coaching?
Definitely What Happens to Our Kids When We Fail to Grow Up, and that is a book by Maggie Hamilton. That is an amazing book. So what happens to our kids when we fail to grow up? So a great, great novel. Also, Raising Children Network is a great website. It is a website that is very much easy to understand, and it covers all ages and stages and sort of guides parents in a way that can be quite easy. But also the Triple P, the Positive Parenting Program, is another website. It's structured, it's evidence-based as well, but I also know that those will be included at the end. So there are a few more that I have put down, but definitely looking for reputable sources online and also simple to understand. We don't want to overcomplicate parenting. It already is tough enough.
It's already bloody hard.
It is.
Absolutely. And I will put a link in the show notes and in the blog article as well. to all those that you've suggested and the other ones that you've provided so that our audience can access that quite easily. And as a last thing, I wanted to give some hope on, on a school run for if a mama's listening while driving between schools and sports, or just sitting there with her hands in her head, or her head in her hands rather, feeling rather fragile. What last minute hope can you offer in this closing?
I think it's to, hey, mama, everybody out there in there struggling or potentially in the trenches in parenting, and that is that your love and your presence. And I think even when we're feeling a bit shaky and unsteady, it matters so deeply that we do what we do, and we do that with love. And we're not perfect. We don't need to try to be perfect, but you are enough. You're good enough today, and you're warmth and safety that you provide your children, just remember that that is enough. And always back yourself, be your biggest cheerleader as the mama bear that we are, and remembering that you have got this.
Beautiful. Thank you so very much for those words of wisdom. And as we do through Beanstalk Mums, constantly try to push that phrase through of you are enough. Whatever you do is enough. So thank you so much again for joining us today. I really appreciate the time that you've put in with us and shared your beautiful wisdom. I will put all the links in the show notes for our listeners to be able to reach out to you. And yes, we'll get to work again in the future together somehow.
It'd be lovely. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening, Mama. I hope Sarah's gentle wisdom on building resilient minds and calmer homes gave you that exhale you've been craving. Remember, you're not alone in this. Asking for support, whether through counselling or a simple parent coaching tip, is a sign of strength. If this episode helped you, share it with another mum who could use a lift. And if you're feeling inspired to take the next step, download your You've Got This e-course for practical guidance you can use right away. Or join our Vine community for daily encouragement and connection. To continue about Sarah's work, pop over to Keep Growing Counselling, and if you need urgent support, reach out to services like Kids Helpline or Beyond Blue. Until next time, keep shining. You're doing an incredible job, and we are here cheering on you every step of the way.